Right here, this is the ear, obviously. Right in front of the ear, you'll find the parotid gland. On your models, at some point as you go through, definitely pay attention to the location of the parotid gland. It will be just anterior to the ear on either side of the head. Over there on Midnight, I did dissect out his parotid gland. All right, so you'll see this big cut kind of coming circular wise around his ear. And there's a white kind of lobulated, it almost looks like a grainy pork chop almost, but that is his parotid gland, just anterior to the ear on either side, all right? Next up, right here, I'll try to clean it up a little bit, but you're gonna see the larynx, also known as the voice box. Let me see, did I pull these little scissors right here? So the larynx usually is a cartilage-based box. It usually has it's a fairly solid structure. I don't know how to describe it, but it also has a whitish appearance to it as well. And that's the cartilage that's actually within that box. It's actually right here between my fingers, if y'all can see. This little kind of solid white cartilage there, that's the larynx. I'm trying to see if I can clean it up. I'm not trying to poke into it, but there's a lot of muscles that kind of attach around it and some nerves. Usually if I had a little bit more time, I would clean this up a little bit better. If I have to do it for testing purposes, I would, but you can kind of see right there as I kind of expose it. Y'all see right there? That's the larynx right there. The larynx leads you to the trachea. I think you can see the tracheal rings. You'll see those on the models next week, but see how there's a little bit of a banding pattern there? That's the tracheal rings that make up the trachea. Now, from a location-based standpoint, what rests right behind the trachea is going to be the esophagus. Remember, we saw that earlier, the flat muscular tube that will connect to the stomach. So here's the trachea. If I do this, you'll see that right behind it, like that, that's the esophagus right here, okay? So you have the trachea and also the esophagus. And then you start to move into the thoracic cavity below. I actually messed up a little bit, but this structure here, which was attached like that, and comes down into, and see how this rests on top of the heart? This is all heart. See the adipose around it? But see this reddish color? That's the thymus. Y'all remember seeing the thymus which sat on top of the heart? This is it right through here. Separate out that lung right there, but that's the thymus sitting on top of the heart right there. I missed this one because the thyroid gland is also on the structures list for the cat. It would be just inferior. See this yellow? It looks almost like fat. That's the thymus. But a lot of times when I'm clearing out the larynx and the trachea, I just, for whatever reason, I go right through the thymus. The thyroid a lot. So this is thyroid, at least what's left of it right through here, all right? This is thymus, which will come down into the mediastinum and end up resting on top of the heart. Right? Of course, you have the lungs on either side. I don't ask y'all to do lobes, so if y'all go find some stuff on the internet and it starts labeling lobes on the cat, don't do that. All you have to do is left versus right lung, all right? So I do ask you to do the sides, right? Left versus right lung. And if we retract back those lungs just a little bit, sorry, my hands are gonna have to be in the way somewhat because I can't hold it and without them getting in the way. But you do have the heart here. This is not the heart itself. This is actually the sac that surrounds the heart. Y'all remember the pericardium? So I believe that is part of your structures list. You do have that sac. There's a lot of adipose around this heart that you can see. You can kind of get rid of that. I didn't get rid of it because the thymus is kind of lodged in that adipose capsule there. But if we do go a little deeper, which I'm gonna have to do, that's why I do a presentation, because as you go through things, you're likely to have to move and remove things in order to see what's below. But this is the actual pericardium right here. See the sac? I'm kind of picking up the forceps right there. That's the actual pericardium. I'm gonna cut into that sac to expose the heart itself. You will see on your structures list that it says pericardial cavity. The pericardial cavity is between the parietal pericardium, which is here, that I just cut into, and the actual heart wall, which is where you would have epicardium. So see, watch this. See how I put those forceps right in that gap, that space? That would be the pericardial cavity. Because if I peel that back, look at what's gonna pop out. There's the heart itself right there. See that? So the pericardial cavity would be in between those two layers. If I can get this to come back around like that. See the pericardium here? And then the heart, that space in between the two, that's gonna be the pericardial cavity. It's damn near impossible to tag, but most of the time when students are following with that structures list, they pick up on, oh, you didn't show us the pericardial cavity. I also didn't show you the pleural cavities, which are between the wall of the thoracic cavity and the lungs. So literally, if you put this back, you'll have a space in between because the parietal pleura is going to be on the wall of the thorax, and then the visceral pleura is on top of the lungs. So that space in between the two, that would be the pleural cavity on either side, all right? So the cavities is more so a conceptual thing where you have to look for the serous membrane, pericardium, or the pleura around the lungs, and then appreciate the fact that the cavity is just a space in between those two, okay? All right, next we have the diaphragm, dome-like muscle that's gonna separate, a little bit of cutting here, clean it up. Dome-like muscle that's going to separate the thoracic cavity above from the abdominal cavity below. You can see I kind of left it intact here, but you can definitely see the dome-like shape to it, all right? Again, this is why I usually do this as a presentation, because part of my presentation, I usually cut it in half, right down the middle like this to expose the liver a little bit better. So, excuse me. As I cut that diaphragm and retract that back, you can see the liver right through here. This liver is fairly large. This is an older cat, I do believe, kind of. This is probably a full-grown adult male. But
5 lobes?
It's going to have different lobes than a human.
Okay.
So just say liver for this. In the little window that you see over here, this is the gallbladder. It looks like it was ruptured at some point, so it's kind of deflated, but you will see a little bit of a liver, gallbladder within that window within the liver right here.
The greenish.
It does have a greenish color. If you open it up, you can start to see it a little bit better in there. I don't like to pull too much on the gallbladder, just because if you do too much, you can cause it to leak bile, and I'm not a fan of bile everywhere. I don't like to clean it up. So that's the gallbladder right in there that you're looking at. See me kind of pulling up on it right there? But then it can appear right in this little window right here, all right? You do have the fatty apron, which is called the greater omentum. It lays on top of the abdominal organs like so. So this is the greater omentum right here. While it runs really close to the liver, this is actually a different organ. See this over here? Notice it's on the left upper quadrant of the abdomen. This is the spleen. Yep, this is the spleen of the cat. Does kind of have a flat nature to it, all right? Doesn't look like as much of a bean or flat bean as what you guys will see on the models in the human, but this is a spleen, this is a liver. Yeah, kind of watch it because the colors will be similar, but they will be two separate organs, all right? Again, we have the greater omentum right here. If you retract the liver up, y'all are not gonna be able to see as easy over there. You're gonna have to, because unless I remove the liver, you really can't see. So I'm gonna do my best, because the stomach, oh man, all of these cats were eating before they killed them. Jeez, Pete. So it's still full of stomach contents. That's why it's so dilated. But this is the stomach right here. I don't know if y'all can see, so y'all have to get to where y'all can see, because again, I can only do so much with it, but this is the stomach right through here. You see the J shape to it? That's the stomach coming right through here. Whatever contents it was eating, they are firm, because most of the time they do evacuate the stomach contents before they preserve them, but they did not on these. And I mean, it's rock hard. That's whatever this last meal was, that's what it is. So yeah, it is what it is, I guess. All right, so you can see the greater omentum. It kind of hangs or projects off of the stomach there. So see how the greater omentum is coming down off that stomach. If you pull everything up, we're going right in here. See this that looks like steak? Kind of looks like meat right through here.
Mm.
That's the pancreas. That's his pancreas right through here. All right. There's a little bit of a tail, body. The head is way over here. This area right in there, but that's the pancreas. All right. Everybody see it? All right. What else do we have? You got a lot of small intestine. I usually don't ask y'all to differentiate like jejunum, duodenum, ileum. I know it's in the structures list that way, but I just feel like that's a little overkill on the cat. But you can see these much smaller loops.
Mm.
The small intestine is held in place by the mesentery. So these little thin membranous linings in between, like my fingers are tapping them behind there, that's the mesentery. It helps anchor the small intestine in place, all right? So you can pull this up and wherever you see, like, that's a good example right through here. That's all mesentery, right through here. The small intestine will lead you to the much more dilated large intestine. So I'm trying to find where they hook up, which is right here. This gets a little wider. This is the rectum right through here. You got on gloves. I'm not pushing because I could push fecal material out the anus, but it's got material in it. That's why I usually don't push on those, okay? But you can see the large intestine, the loops are a little bit more dilated or wider than what you have for the small intestine. I think you guys also have like kidney and ureter. This one's a little more difficult because you do have to come to the posterior. And if you look right here, that's the kidney right there. I'm gonna expose it a little bit. I'm gonna leave the other one actually tucked behind. So usually what I do is come in like that. And I gently, oh, dadgummit, I did it again. That's because what I was trying to preserve is this right here. That's the adrenal gland right here. That's the adrenal gland sitting on top of the kidney. I'm gonna flip it over to the other side real quick. Cause I always try to expose one kidney, but I leave the other one covered up because this little collection of tissue right here, if y'all can see, that's the adrenal gland. It sits on top of the kidney. So this is his right kidney, and then the adrenal gland is sitting right on top, on the top margin. That cat actually has a better color differentiation, so you can see it a little bit easier. So, you know, maybe if you want to take a look over there, you could do that. The other thing I have to always find, which comes from the kidney, it's going to be the ureter. So let me see if I can play around. That's it right here. The ureter is a tube that connects the kidney to the bladder. Come on. Try not to take it away. See this right here? Damn. Right through it. They didn't. This one, normally the tissue is a little bit more resilient. I think the ruptured blood vessel probably created a lack of stability with the tissue. But the ureter is a tube that will lead to the bladder, which is down here. I didn't expose the bladder, so I'm not going to deal with that. But let me come over here on midnight. Show y'all a couple. Like, see, here's a great omentum. Y'all see it kind of once again there. You got the spleen over here. Just keep my eye exposed here. Must have been this. But let me see real quick. No, but see, I'm trying to get this because his legs. See the kidney here?
Mm-hmm.
The adrenal gland is right on top. You see a little bit of it starting over there and wrapping over. There's the ureter right there. This one didn't tear apart on me as easy. So you can see how if I pull on it, see how the kidney moves? That's the ureter leading down to the urinary bladder, all right? I did mention the parotid gland, which is right here. All right, that's his parotid. See how it's just, if you fold that flat back, you'll be right in front of the ear on that side. So you do have that. Notice again, you got trachea, larynx is here. Thyroid is a little bit better preserved here. So, thymus is going on this one because I went right through it. When I was cutting into it, I went right through thymus.
That's the heart.
Yeah, this is heart in the middle. Look right here. That's the gallbladder with the liver. Got the spleen over here. So you do have a couple of different appearances. They're not going to always look exactly the same. That's just the reality of these cats. When we get in there, we usually are just trying to, you know, certain cats I'll keep in a certain way to show you certain things, right?
What's this area?
This would be Left lung. This would be
Okay.
like the pleural cavity on that
Oh,
side.
yeah.
So yeah. But again, you can see diaphragm, which I always make my cut in the middle so that I can fold it back up like that if I wanted to tag it. So you got like diaphragm there. I would probably cut this off because you don't need that.
And that little green thing is the
That's a
gallbladder.
gallbladder right there. You see more of the rectum through here. There's this other kidney kind of poking right through there if you open it up. Right there.
That's the adrenal.
Yeah, the adrenal is, I think it's a little bit better on the other side actually. Because you can actually start to see the triangular shape over here.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
See the triangular shape coming across the top margin. All right. So it's like right through there. If I get industrious, I'll bring a water bottle and just squirt all this dry, clotted blood out. I mean, well, moist, clotted blood, because I'll just rinse it out. But that usually makes things a little bit easier and more clear for y'all when y'all go to look at it on the test. But that's the cat. I don't do reproductive organs. So like ovaries, testes, uterus, I don't go down and dig in the pelvis to do that. Although I may have a colleague or two, but if I find out they did it, I'll show it to y'all next week. But I do enough. So.
Do we need a note for the test?
As of right now, no. Because what we do is we literally take these cats that we've dissected, we keep them, and then we choose what we want to put on the test. So, that's why I said there's a decent chance that y'all see one of these. Because normally I'm fairly good at doing head, neck, thorax, and abdomen. I just don't do pelvis.
What's
Miss
this
Strickland might do pelvis though, so she's pretty good at that. What's up?
What's this apron thing called again?
Greater omentum.
Greater momentum. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Okay, so that's my cat.